The newly arrived maid has uprooted all the exquisite peonies in my garden to plant vegetables instead. Fuming with indignation and ready to confront her, I was momentarily distracted by a flurry of comments floating across my vision. How adorable she is, so genuine and relatable. Indeed, indeed. I am eager to see what the female lead can cultivate. Why should the supporting character have any say? With her villa, garden, chauffeur, and maid, does she not realize that if she insults the protagonist, the male lead could very well bring her entire family to ruin? Shh, quiet down. The male lead is approaching. I raised my gaze, and there stood Duan Hang, emerging from the living room with a stern expression. Jiang Wei Xiao, what exactly are you planning to give? With no time to ponder, I concealed the limited edition designer watch behind my back and swiftly turned to unearth a handful of fresh vegetable seeds from the garden. I wish you a future as splendid as these seeds, taking root and flourishing in new realms. 1. The garden before me lay in disarray, with peonies carelessly discarded to the side. Sweat beaded on Song Yuan's nose as she busily attended to her tasks in her standardized maid uniform, her fervor evident. My ire was abruptly intercepted by an overwhelming barrage of comments. The girl is quite amusing, so down-to-earth and relatable. Indeed, I'm curious to see what the heroine can cultivate. Why does the supporting character get to have a villa, a garden, a driver, and a maid? She has no idea that if she insults the heroine, the hero will ruin her family. After confirming twice that I was not hallucinating, I was left speechless. The comments flooded in, overwhelmingly supportive of Song Yuan, interspersed with condemnations directed at me. I felt an urge to lash out. The precious peonies that my father had painstakingly transplanted from Luoyang as a gift for my mother's 20th wedding anniversary had become fodder for public scorn. Turning my head, I saw Duan Hang being welcomed by the butler. Duan Hang, my childhood friend and 3 years my senior, had just graduated but had chosen not to join the family business as his parents wished. Instead, he sought to prove his abilities elsewhere. Dressed in casual attire, his tall figure and chiseled features bore an air of aloofness. Jiang Wei Xiao, what exactly do you intend to give me? I'm quite busy. I had no time to ponder further, my mind preoccupied with the dismal future my family faced due to Song Yuan. I hid the limited edition watch I had pre-ordered 2 months prior from Europe behind my back and unearthed a handful of freshly planted seeds from the flower bed. I know you lack for nothing. I can only wish you a brilliant future, just like these seeds, taking root and flourishing in a new place. As Duan Hang's gaze shifted from Song Yuan to the seeds in my hand, he unexpectedly broke into a rare smile. You have a good heart. I appreciate it. Instinctively, I turned to look at Song Yuan. Her fair face was flushed, radiating beauty in the glow of the setting sun. She smiled in our direction before kneeling down to continue her work. Duan Hang cradled the seeds in his hands with great care. I couldn't help but scoff internally. It seemed that Duan Hang had a penchant for such things, thus saving me 250,000. After Duan Hang departed, I called Song Yuan over. Thank you for the seeds. Duan Hang is quite discerning, and it's rare for him to find a gift he likes. Song Yuan wiped her face with the back of her hand, a smudge of dirt on her cheek adding to her innocent charm. It's nothing. I know people in the city generally like vibrant things. Look, it took me several hours to plant them. She pointed proudly at the barren patch of garden. Once they grow, the sir and madam will be able to enjoy fresh vegetables anytime. However, the vegetables we consume at home are already organic, air-freighted daily. I replied calmly, blinking innocently. Song Yuan's expression froze. I continued, the peonies in the garden, known as silver silk topping, cost 68,000 each. You've uprooted 20 of them. So let us say it amounts to 1 million. Will you be paying by card or cash? 2. Song Yuan's complexion turned pale inch by inch, her eyes welling with unshed tears. Miss, how could you be so cruel to me? Is it because of Ah Hang? Duan Hang likes my seeds? At a loss for words, I found myself momentarily speechless, unsure of how to respond. I, too, enjoy reading novels. But is it always the case that the heroine's thought process is so peculiar? Jiang Wei Xiao, I really cannot change my opinion of you. Duan Hang returned, tossing the bag he had just brought in onto the floor. You always place yourself above others, domineering. Do you derive satisfaction from making others uncomfortable with money? Finally, tears streamed down Song Yuan's cheeks, tracing paths down her face. Her lips trembled as she said, I only wish for the sir and madam to eat healthily. My grandmother always said that one must be practical and hardworking when taking a job. Was she wrong? Song Yuan refrained from mentioning how she had ruined my family's valuable peonies. Duan Hang produced a black card and tossed it at me. I despise you, an oblivious parasite who knows nothing of the world's hardships. Is being wealthy so impressive? I have money too, 2 million in there should cover her damages. With that, he took Song Yuan's hand and made to leave. But Song Yuan stubbornly pulled away. Hang. I am very grateful to you for introducing me to this summer job. I must stick it out until the end of the summer. I still need to earn my tuition. Song Yuan bowed deeply before me, her voice low. Miss, please don't dismiss me. I truly need this job. Duan Hang's expression darkened, as if he were ready to pounce on me at any moment. I was just contemplating the black card in my hand when I was abruptly interrupted. I hastily smiled from the heart. I never said I would dismiss you. I appreciate your sincerity, and your salary will double. Song Yuan looked at me in astonishment, then glanced at Duan Hang. The tension in his furrowed brow finally eased. Jiang Wei Xiao, you had better follow through. If you make things difficult for Song Yuan again, I won't stand idly by. Song Yuan's salary is hardly substantial. Doubling it would only add another 20,000, a mere drop in the bucket. The comments began to flood in again. The male lead is so handsome. Spending money like water for the girl, I want that. Is the supporting character really that petty? Do wealthy kids have to be so miserly? When will the male and female leads get together? Hurry up with the plot. Okay, speed it up. I took Song Yuan's hand, gently wiping the dirt from her cheek and smoothing her hair. You haven't seen your grandmother in half a month, have you? You've been busy all afternoon. Take a break and go visit her. I'll give you a day off tomorrow. Song Yuan's eyes sparkled with joy, her delicate brows lifting in delight. Hang. You mentioned wanting to come to our village to take scenic photos. Are you going tomorrow? Of course. Without thinking, I blurted out, Duan Hang. ISNT tomorrow your day to report to the new company? Duan Hang, hands in pockets, seemed unconcerned. Reporting the day after is just as fine. Fine then. You're the male lead, it's your call. That very night, Duan Hang eagerly returned to the village with Song Yuan. I gazed at the Hermes crocodile leather bag on the table and the black card, feeling quite satisfied. Trading a handful of seeds for these was certainly not a loss. I would carry this to the company tomorrow. 3. Both Song Yuan and I are in our second year of university. I study finance while she studies literature. It was Duan Hang who introduced her to work at my home for the summer. My mother initially intended to refuse, as she couldn't bear to see a girl my age working in front of her. It would tug at her heartstrings. However, Duan Hang pleaded for her assistance. Soft-hearted. My mother agreed to let Song Yuan stay for 2 months, exempt from work, receiving a salary as a way to support a student in need. Yet once Song Yuan arrived, she busied herself with cleaning everywhere. She even used documents my father had casually drafted on the coffee table as waste paper to clean the glass. Moreover, she meticulously moved a delicate ceramic vase from the guest bathroom to the master bedroom vanity, leading to my mother suffering from a rash for half a month after she carelessly wiped it once. My mother hesitated to speak up, urging Song Yuan to take a proper break during the summer, but she stubbornly insisted she couldn't accept a salary without contributing. My mother sighed and flew off to Europe for a vacation the next day. If she had known that by the time her plane landed, a whole garden of peonies would be completely destroyed by Song Yuan, she would surely regret seeking peace and quiet. There was no need to trouble her with such vexing matters. I contacted Luoyang and arranged for 150,000 to restore the peony garden to its former glory. Finally, I could breathe a sigh of relief. 4. This summer, I was assigned to intern in the planning department. As soon as I settled in, Sisterly entered. Smile. The representatives from the company you're working with have arrived. We will be discussing in the conference room in 10 minutes. I spent the entire morning taking notes, not even stopping to sip water. I continuously sketched ideas in my notebook, my thoughts becoming clearer and more refined. Just before the meeting adjourned, Sisterly asked, Jiang Wei Xiao, do you have anything to add? I pressed my lips together. I wholeheartedly agree with Silver Sea Corporation's perspective. Currently, leading AI companies are entering a period of explosive growth, presenting an opportunity for the emergence of a new generation of platform-level intelligent terminals. I believe proactive global deployment is essential. My speech flowed with increasing ease, and the representatives from the other company nodded slightly, affirming, this young lady, though not very old, possesses remarkable foresight. Sisterly expressed her satisfaction, stating, she is merely an intern, just a sophomore. The future is indeed promising. Although I was aware that such words were mere pleasantries, who does not relish compliments? After all, I had endured several sleepless nights working on this project. As I escorted the guests to the door, I lingered behind and overheard the two conversing. The heir of the Duan family had not reported for duty. It was intended for him to participate in today's discussions. However, being a young master, adhering to protocols was not his forte, and the phone call had still gone unanswered. They exchanged glances, and one remarked, "President Duan specifically instructed us not to give him any preferential treatment." The other merely smiled wryly in silence. Duan Hang and Song Yuan returned only on the 5th day, owing to torrential rains that had blocked the sole road leading to the village. For reasons unknown, their energy seemed rather peculiar. Song Yuan turned her face away from Duan Hang while he grasped her wrist, his gaze softening, his tone exceedingly gentle. "Dear, that was not my intention." Resolutely, he added. "Your lack of security is entirely my fault. Next month is my mother's birthday, and I will formally bring you home." The comments flooded in, max boyfriend energy. "A responsible man is incredibly charming. I adore this pace. Isn't it time for the female antagonist to stir trouble?" She always thought she would be getting engaged to the male lead that day. I momentarily lost my train of thought, recalling a jest made during the family gathering at the New Year, where I suggested that on Duan Hang's mother's birthday, it might be fitting for us to get engaged as well, a double celebration. At that time, Duan Hang had yet to meet Song Yuan and had not outright declined my suggestion. I had never harbored any expectations regarding marriage. I lacked neither wealth nor affection. If a union between our families could elevate my family's standing, there was no harm in going along with it, feigning shyness. The comments reminded me that I should quickly tell my mother not to arrange for jewelry while in Europe. Just as I picked up my phone, Song Yuan suddenly shook my arm vigorously. The phone slipped from my grasp and fell to the ground, its screen shattering, fragments of glass scattering into the crevices. My lips twitched. Before I could utter a word, Song Yuan's complexion turned pale and fragile, resembling a porcelain doll on the verge of shattering. As though the sky had fallen upon her, Song Yuan pointed towards the garden, where the peonies had been replanted. "I knew it. You all secretly disdain me and do not like my mustard seeds. Indeed, how could cabbage ever compare to peonies? I, a mere pauper, do not belong in your world. And you need not say such things to placate me." Her words were directed at me, yet her gaze remained fixed on Duan Hang, tears streaming down her cheeks. Duan Hang's demeanor instantly grew cold. His eyes, when they met mine, were genuinely intimidating. He did not comfort Song Yuan but stepped closer to me, his gaze icy. "Have I not warned you? If you continue to bully Song Yuan, I will not stand idly by." Startled, I recoiled, but he edged closer. "If you do not make it right with Song Yuan, I will ruin you." The tattoo on Duan Hang's collarbone became visible as he moved. The ornate lettering read Duan Song. "Forever." I recited it silently. "Forever? Is this the male lead's aesthetic?" I quickly lowered my head, stifling a laugh, my shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Duan Hang assumed I was in tears from fright and issued a couple more warnings before turning to comfort Song Yuan. "Dear, I promise you, the mustard seeds you gave me will flourish in my garden. Who cares for those flowers and plants? They only attract bees and butterflies, which is quite bothersome." I wiped away the tears that had escaped from my eyes and leaned closer. "Do not be sad, Yuan. I have planted your mustard seeds in a better location." I pulled her along to the other side of the villa. Beyond the gate lay a much larger garden, a plot my father had previously acquired. Initially intended for a swimming pool, but left to grow wild with weeds. When the family was reorganizing the peonies, I anticipated Song Yuan causing more trouble and thus spent extra to have this land cleared. Song Yuan's tears transformed into a radiant smile, reminiscent of a child. Her eyes sparkling with joy. Someone cherished my intentions, and I was elated. Song Yuan dashed around the garden, though I did not know if her frolic would trample the newly sprouted mustard plants, nor did I dare to inquire. Duan Hang's gaze remained glued to Song Yuan, unable to part from her for even a moment. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the comments flooding in. Indeed, the screen was filled with, "The female lead is truly adorable. The male lead is incredibly handsome. The development of their relationship is satisfying. Sweet, sweet, sweet." The following day, as I stepped out of my house, I found Duan Hang waiting at my doorstep. He sheltered himself beneath a tree, his eyes filled with longing as he gazed at Song Yuan's room above. What was this all about? My car needed repairs due to a flat tire, and today I called for a ride, requiring me to exit the community. Duan Hang looked as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. I was pressed for time and ignored him, hurrying forward. Jiang Wei Xiao, stop. Duan Hang blocked my path but seemed anxious about being seen by Song Yuan, gripping my sleeve tightly as he hurried ahead. I stumbled after him, nearly twisting my ankle. Anger flared within me, and I shook him off. Duan Hang, are you out of your mind? Speak your mind. Our commotion caught Song Yuan's attention. She leaned against the window, her small face furrowed in confusion and distress, lightly biting her lip. Duan Hang hastily formed a heart shape with his hands, mouthing I love you. Then he leaned down and whispered, Jiang Wei Xiao, lend me 3 million. What? Duan Hang grew impatient, glancing away. I've been absent from the new company for 5 days, and my father is furious. He has frozen my card and told me to fend for myself. So you come to me for money? I need the funds to help repair Song Yuan's family's house. It leaked during the heavy rains a few days ago. 3 million to repair a house in the countryside? Are you gilding it? Stop being sarcastic. I do not blame you for being aloof, but do not look down on rural people. When did I ever belittle anyone? This is absurd. Since high school, every vacation, I had spent 2 weeks in the village my father's company supported. How could I not know how much it costs to build a house? With an existing homestead, constructing a 2-story house would only cost about 1 million. 3 million? Which construction crew has been scamming Duan Hang? I calculated briefly. But Duan Hang interrupted me with a wave of his hand. Enough with the chatter, just tell me if you will lend it or not. I will not. I replied firmly. Duan Hang gritted his teeth. I truly misjudged you, I thought you would have a heart. Footsteps approached from afar. Song Yuan, still worried, chased after us. Duan Hang spoke rapidly, I will pay interest, 20, and settle it in 3 months. I smiled, I will lend you the money without interest. But you must assist me with the bid for the Yanjin project. Duan Hang pondered for a couple of seconds, dismissively replying, honestly, I was never interested in that. To him, the Duan family would not bother with a market the size of Yanjin, and he presumed Yinhai would similarly disregard it. I felt partially reassured. Hang, what are you two discussing that seems so amusing? Song Yuan twisted her fingers, her tone tinged with jealousy. No. It's just your Hang wanting to surprise you. You can ask him yourself. I must take my leave now. The ride-hailing driver urged me for the 4th time, and I dashed away. Duan Hang wrapped his arm around Song Yuan's waist and kissed her forehead. Their silhouettes basked in the gentle morning sunlight, framed by a backdrop of lush pink roses, a scene of pure love. The comments flowed in harmony. I wiped the sweat from my brow and quickly called sisterly. We should be able to secure the Yanjin project. Good, you've worked hard. It's not hard, it's for my own company. It was a comment I had inadvertently scrolled past that had alerted me. The female antagonist won't be happy for long. Once the male lead establishes himself in Yinhai and proves his capabilities, he will return to take over the family business, starting with the annexation of the Jiang family. Haha, everything the female antagonist has will belong to the female lead. Exciting. Perhaps in romantic dramas, the female antagonist is destined for a bad ending. But why should that be the case? I have not committed any heinous acts, and I have been friendly toward Song Yuan, without meddling in the romance between her and the male lead. Why, then, must I descend into a tragic fate? I am indignant. After pondering for several days, I concluded that my only recourse is to ensure the male lead falters. On the day of the Yanjin bidding, Duan Hang, representing Yinhai, submitted the bid and then excused himself from the event. I was left astounded by his actions. I had anticipated that Duan Hang would merely assist me with the bidding, but I did not foresee such decisiveness in his behavior. Later, I learned that Duan Hang was simply lending me a hand because Song Yuan had twisted her ankle while picking vegetables in the garden, causing her ankle to swell significantly. Duan Hang's eyes turned red with concern as he held her hand, expressing his guilt. Darling, summer vacation is already half over, yet you are working so hard. I do not want you to suffer like this. Song Yuan set aside her copy of How the Dream of the Red Chamber was written, her eyes glistening with tears. Hang, I just read about the tragic fate of Jin Hohat Luji. It truly pains my heart. Compared to Ying Chun's unfortunate encounter with Sun Xiaozu, I feel immensely fortunate to be with you. I choked on a sip of water. Cough. Yuan has been too tired lately. She deserves a break. Oh, and her salary should be doubled. She has worked too hard. Haha, you all continue your conversation. I shall take my leave. Jiang Wei smiled, expressing his gratitude. Duan Hang gazed at Song Yuan's delicate face and, in an unexpected turn, thanked me. Song Yuan also wore a look of gratitude. With the living expenses for the next semester and next year's tuition secured, I smiled and replied, "You're welcome." After all, the Yen Gene project had earned us 15 million. By mid-August, my mother finally returned from her vacation in Europe, and my father had also come home from his business trip. It was a rare occasion for our family to have a reunion dinner. At the table, Song Yuan insisted on standing aside, eagerly introducing the dishes. "Madam, these are the lettuce and cucumbers I personally grew, and that garlic sprout dish too." My mother smiled gently, praising her. "Ah, Yuan, you are truly capable." My father sampled each dish, nodding in approval. "The vegetables are indeed fresh. Well done." Song Yuan beamed with delight, her spirits high. Her ankle was healing. And I dared not let her stand too long, fearing that the heroine's halo would lead to my early demise. I pulled her to sit on the sofa and handed her a box. "A gift from my mother for you." Song Yuan gazed at the exquisite earrings inside the box. Taken aback. "Thank you, madam, I love them." My mother waved her hand dismissively. However, the following day at Duan Hang's mother's birthday party, my mother nearly broke down in tears over those very earrings. At 10 o'clock, the three of us arrived at Duan Hang's home. His mother, Aunt Han, wore heavy makeup, struggling to conceal the wrinkles under her eyes, with a few strands of white hair peeking through. My mother and I exchanged surprised glances. Aunt Han was always meticulous about her appearance, maintaining her skin and figure to ensure she appeared dignified and elegant at all times. Upon seeing the garden devoid of flowers and only rows of lettuce and cucumbers, Aunt Han's expression grew even more unnatural. "It was that child, a Hang, who insisted on growing his own vegetables for health reasons," she explained. My mother smiled in agreement. "A Hang is indeed thoughtful and filial." I nodded vigorously, yes. Duan Hang has always been dutiful. When Aunt Han heard the term filial, her smile nearly faltered. She merely responded with a subdued By 11:30, when Duan Hang finally appeared, Aunt Han's smile had completely vanished. Song Yuan, with her flowing black hair and clad in the quintessential heroine's white dress, delicately held Duan Hang's hand. Upon witnessing this, my mother and I hastily pretended to admire the lettuce in the garden, while our ears perked up. "A Hang, today is my birthday. Kindly ask the unrelated guests to step aside." "Mom, I want to formally introduce her to you. This is my girlfriend, Song Yuan. And I sincerely wish to marry her." "Duan Hang, be silent." Aunt Han interrupted him loudly. The guests inside and outside the house fell silent. Aunt Han exhaled softly, her voice calming. "A Hang, we can discuss this later. Today is my birthday." The last sentence carried a hint of pleading, stirring a sense of discomfort within me. Duan Hang turned to look at Song Yuan's aggrieved expression, his temper flaring. "Mom, you have yet to meet Song Yuan. How can you reject her? You are being unreasonable and authoritarian." Aunt Han was finally provoked. "Duan Hang, I have not met her? Do you think I am unaware? Because of her, your standing in Yinhai has plummeted, bringing disgrace to your father and me. From the moment you started working, she has been a burden. And the Yen Gene project was lost because of her. You have been with her for such a short time, and you have already ruined everything. Not to mention, you borrowed millions to help her family repair their house. How can I possibly like her? I knew that you have always favored a son who brings you pride, which is why I refused to join the Duan family. I do not wish to be controlled by you for the rest of my life." "Duan Hang, you are going too far." Aunt Han swayed slightly, and Song Yuan hurriedly went to support her arm. Yet, Aunt Han violently pushed her away. "I do not need your help, leave me be." However, Aunt Han's fingers snagged Song Yuan's earring. Song Yuan screamed as blood quickly trickled from her earlobe onto her white dress. The crimson droplets stained the fabric. Duan Hang's vision turned red with fury, and as he rushed to embrace Song Yuan, he inadvertently shoved Aunt Han. Losing her balance, she stumbled backward and fell to the floor with a thud. Shock rippled through the room. Uncle Duan hurried over to assist Aunt Han, then approached Duan Hang and delivered 2 sharp slaps across his face. "Unfilial son, get out." Duan Hang was taken aback by his mother's fall, momentarily stunned. The slaps jolted him back to reality, and as he opened his mouth to speak, no words came forth. He simply took Song Yuan's hand and left. After this uproar, Aunt Han was utterly exhausted, hastily finishing the meal and sending the guests away. Once alone, she grasped my mother's hand, weeping sorrowfully. I never expected Duan Hang would raise a hand against me for a woman. I did not intentionally pull on her earring. You know, at that moment, Duan Hang looked at me with such hatred. My mother's eyes glistened with tears as she felt a pang of guilt. Had she not gifted those earrings, perhaps this turmoil could have been avoided. I sighed, pondering this entire affair. In the following days, the atmosphere at home remained tense. Song Yuan's ears were wrapped in thick bandages, and my mother treated her with increased formality. The online comments erupted once more. The female lead is suffering. What a worthless earring, a cheap trinket. The supporting character and her mother are so despicable. They pretend to be nice to the heroine, but are always looking down on her. Male lead, please stand up for the female lead. I want to see the supporting character's family meet their end and for this story to reach a conclusion. This time, I truly felt anger towards those comments. Are the morals in romantic dramas so distorted? The supporting characters can do nothing right, while the protagonists can choke to death on their meals, and the supporting characters must accompany them to the grave. Frustrated, I raked my fingers through my hair. As the school year commenced, both Song Yuan and I returned to campus. True to his role as the male lead, Duan Hang was enveloped in an aura of fortune. After being expelled by Uncle Duan, he did not return to Yinhai, but instead found a job at a small company named Lingyu. It turned out to be a fortuitous decision. The fledgling company received several investments in quick succession, and the owner of Lingyu was overjoyed, attributing their newfound prosperity to Duan Hang. Consequently, he entrusted him with new projects. The Duan family, Yinhai, Jiang family, and other smaller companies competed for the same project. During a brief visit home, I noticed my father deep in thought, ultimately deciding to forego the opportunity. Xiao, your courage is commendable, but this project is too risky. The Jiang family has just entered this industry. Prudence is paramount. As expected, Duan Hang successfully secured the project. When Uncle Duan visited my home for tea, I noticed several new lines etched into his face. The Duan family had grown increasingly large over the years, yet internal factions were rampant, making project advancement challenging and finances increasingly inflexible. They had hoped this project would provide a much-needed respite. Believing success to be certain, I was unexpectedly thwarted by Duan Hang. Guarding against familial betrayal is indeed a formidable challenge. Uncle Duan shook his head, remarking that while he wished to prove himself, it was unnecessary to undermine his own kin. Alas, even my father felt a twinge of sympathy for Uncle Duan. Duan Hang had gone as far as to seek information from his own company to secure a project. Knowledge of oneself and one's adversary ensures victory in every encounter. His execution was thorough. I heard that Duan Hang had independently purchased an apartment, to which Song Yuan had also moved. I checked my bank account, which held 3,600,000, and I couldn't help but admire Duan Hang. Very well. Let the protagonist's aura guide me to profit. In my third year of university, I was juggling classes while interning at a company. I hardly crossed paths with Song Yuan. As Lingyu's fledgling enterprise made remarkable strides within just 6 months, Duan Hang had already assumed de facto control. Their audacity and aggressive tactics set them apart, with little intersection in our respective businesses, yet I remained vigilant regarding their developments. The Duan family faced severe suppression from Duan Hang. Rumors spoke of a fierce rift between the father and son, leaving Aunt Han utterly heartbroken. Observing the steady growth of the Jiang family business, with this year's financial reports particularly impressive, I felt a fleeting sense of relief. Perhaps I had strayed from the narrative's course. However, just days later, my heart sank once more, for the long-absent barrage of comments reappeared. As the new year approached, following several days of snowfall, the sun finally graced us with its presence. My father eagerly called out to me, Xiao, with such splendid sunshine these days, let us head to the village to deliver some goods together. After 2 consecutive days of deliveries, my face had become stiff from smiling, my limbs trembling from exhaustion. My father teased me about being a fragile university student and advised me to return home. The rural roads were treacherous, so I decided to pull over to a vacant space, closing my eyes to gather my strength. In a drowsy state, a sudden crash jolted me awake, causing the vehicle to sway. Hastily, I exited the car. An electric tricycle lay tilted nearby, its cargo of bricks scattered, a few pieces having struck my windshield, leaving a crack. An elderly woman, bundled tightly, lay on the ground, her legs pinned beneath the bricks, moaning in distress. I crouched down, swiftly removing the bricks while dialing for help. 10 minutes later, the only arrivals were traffic police and an ambulance, accompanied by Duan Hang and Song Yuan. The barrage of comments had returned once again. How pitiful the female lead is. Just as life begins to improve, her grandmother suffers such a calamity. Why is the female antagonist still appearing? I timidly suggest that the tricycle appeared to be stationary. Perhaps the road was slippery and the grandmother lost her balance. Shut up upstairs. Can't you see the stark contrast between the female antagonist's luxury car and the tricycle? It makes the grandmother seem even more tragic. Song Yuan, disregarding the muck, knelt on the ground, weeping uncontrollably. Grandmother, if anything happens to you, I wouldn't want to live. The elderly lady clutched her leg, lamenting. In her old age, she had aimed to gather bricks to build a wall for her vegetable garden, yet this misfortune befell her. Song Yuan repeatedly inquired how the accident occurred, but the elderly woman kept muttering about her vegetable garden. That cursed vegetable garden. After half a year, Duan Hang's presence was even more formidable. Without hesitation, he delivered a resounding slap that left me stunned, my ears ringing and my hearing muddled. Jiang Wei laughed. What is wrong with the old lady? I could seriously harm you. The traffic police intervened, pulling him away. I warn you, any further violence will result in an arrest. I covered my face, my body swaying, and as my head tilted, I collapsed to the ground. The ambulance crew lifted me onto a stretcher alongside others. Song Yuan's cries ceased, and she softly asked, Hang, she won't be harmed, will she? Duan Hang coldly replied, as long as grandmother is fine. Song Yuan resumed her weeping, albeit with a sense of relief. The snow-softened ground had only left the elderly woman with a contusion on her lower leg. Not serious in nature. Yet I continually complained of dizziness, rushing to the restroom to vomit several times. The doctor frowned. This is a concussion. Without hesitation, I called the police. Duan Hang dismissed the matter. She struck someone. I intend to sue her. Song Yuan appeared slightly more rounded than before. Yet her expression bore no innocence, now tinged with shrewdness from the advantages of wealth. Xiao, I consider you a friend, but you have harmed my grandmother. And I cannot forgive you. Whatever Hang decides to do, I cannot stop. While I was drinking milk, I accidentally choked, splattering it all over her. Dressed in a light pink fox fur coat, its delicate fibers made the milk roll off effortlessly. Blame my dizziness and nausea. I urged her to wipe it off. Song Yuan ignored the tissue I offered, maintaining a stern demeanor as she walked away. Because the rural road lacked surveillance, the traffic police meticulously examined the traces of the electric vehicle's journey, considering my car's position, and ultimately concluded that the elderly woman had collided with it, absolving me of any responsibility. Upon receiving the determination of liability and the hospital's assessment of minor injuries, I couldn't help but smirk. No. I refused to accept a settlement. I rejected Uncle Mao's mediation. The other party offered 100,000. We declined. My mother, distressed, embraced me. Ultimately, Duan Hang was detained for 15 days. Aunt Han brought numerous items to visit me. My mother, with a hint of displeasure, saw her out and discovered a card left behind containing 300,000. My mother felt a pang of discomfort, grumbling, why should they repay their parents' debts? She promptly dialed Aunt Han's number. I've found another agency that does excellent facial treatments. With merely 5 days until the new year. After handing several files to my father, he became so engrossed in work that he barely surfaced. The New Year's Eve dinner finally turned into a family reunion. My parents raised their glasses, wishing for my happiness in the coming year, filled with smiles. As for me, I've always carried that lightheartedness within. However, the warm and harmonious atmosphere was abruptly interrupted by an unwelcome guest. Sir, I implore you, please show mercy and let Hang off the hook. My father took a small sip of his drink, remaining silent. Song Yuan turned to me, pleading, Xiao, you and Hang share a childhood bond, don't you? His company is on the brink of collapse. This is his livelihood. Song Yuan had changed into a pristine white mink coat, her face hidden within the fur collar, presenting a picture of vulnerability. I scoffed. Good feelings? Am I supposed to slap you instead? My mother interjected first. Miss Song, we are unaware of what you speak of. Today is a rare occasion for our family to gather. You can gather, but what about him? All alone. Song Yuan's tears shimmered. Yet I had no time to appreciate them. The barrage of comments reached an unusual consensus. Has the female lead begun to lose her composure? Is this my illusion? I've noticed for a long time that the plot has become chaotic, seemingly veering off course since the female lead plucked the peony, originally. The male lead hadn't even returned to the village with her. Indeed, it seems the female lead and the female antagonist have been possessed, entirely deviating from their initial characterizations. The male lead is the most loathsome, a violent man. He deserves to sit in contemplation for 3 months. Finally, Song Yuan wiped her tears defiantly and declared before leaving, I will no longer plead with people like you. A Hang will surely overcome this hardship. My mother looked bewildered, glancing at my father, then back at me. What was she talking about? What hardship pertains to whom? My father and I exchanged glances, shaking our heads. No idea. After dinner, my father informed me that Duan Hang's small business was about to collapse. Given my constant attention to his developments and data collection, it proved invaluable. Ling Yu had been remarkably bold, recently pursuing a project with immense profits. Had Duan Hang been present, perhaps they would have had a fighting chance. Alas, I had insisted on sending him away. Thus, only the latter remained, fraught with significant risk. My father discreetly allied with several small companies that had long suffered under Ling Yu, providing them with comprehensive information to assist in securing the project and swiftly undermining Ling Yu. By the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, when Duan Hang emerged from detention, Ling Yu was already burdened with substantial debts. A few days later, Duan Hang's apartment in the city was forced into auction. I heard that Song Yuan desperately tried to intervene, claiming it was a memento of their love. Duan Hang, too, became incensed, chastising Song Yuan for her lack of awareness. Song Yuan, feeling aggrieved, hurried back to the village villa, leaving Duan Hang alone to face the mess left by Ling Yu. The Duan family, previously weakened under Ling Yu's relentless oppression, had long fallen behind the Jiang family. Uncle Duan seemed to have seen through his son's callousness and indifference, ignoring Duan Hang's pleas for help and instead taking his niece and nephew back home to nurture them with care. Aunt Han, too, was disinclined to speak of Duan Hang. And coincidentally, my mother shared the same sentiment. Thus, their interactions remained relatively harmonious. Today, my mother visited Aunt Han to discuss a trip to the Arctic next month. But she returned home with a dark expression. It turned out that Song Yuan had also been there. As early March brought a hint of warmth, yet the chill lingered. Song Yuan entered wearing scant clothing and immediately knelt down, pleading with Aunt Han to return Duan Hang to her. Only then did Aunt Han realize that Duan Hang had vanished for nearly a month, evading debts. In her desperation, Song Yuan had no choice but to seek help from the Duan family. Aunt Han nearly fainted, but Song Yuan collapsed before her. My mother had no choice but to accompany Aunt Han to the hospital. The result? A miscarriage. My mother was distraught at the sight of Song Yuan and found an excuse to leave for home. I, too, was at a loss for words. Song Yuan had transformed from a naive and innocent girl into someone devoid of purity. I found it hard to believe she had been unaware of the potential for miscarriage. What was she scheming? Ultimately, it was none of my concern. However, I underestimated Duan Hang's unstable state of mind. Reeking of alcohol, he stormed into my home in the dead of night, demanding that my mother explain what she had said to Song Yuan that could provoke such a reaction. Mizine, if you cannot clarify, I will employ every means necessary to make you understand. Duan Hang's hair looked unkempt, his beard unshaven, and his gaze was both obsessive and sinister. My mother trembled with rage. The online comments finally unified in condemnation of Duan Hang. I no longer wished to refer to him as the male lead. He had completely lost his mind and needed a mental evaluation. Laughable, call the police. Breaking and entering. I'm done with this drama. Neither the male nor female lead is worth watching. My father was away on business, and the housekeeper tried to drag Duan Hang out, only to be met with violent resistance. Just as I was about to call the authorities, Duan Hang lunged at me, smashing my phone. In the process, he toppled a Ming Dynasty guanyin vase that had just been returned. Crash! Shards of porcelain scattered across the floor. Splendid, worth 6,680,000. He would be behind bars for quite some time. Uncle had arrived promptly. leading Duan Hang away as he continued to shout for my mother to provide him with an explanation. My mother swallowed a few rapid-acting heart pills to calm her racing heart. As I held her, I too was trembling, my teeth chattering. A normal person could never contend with someone mentally unhinged. Nevertheless, Uncle Hat took him to the hospital for an evaluation, which, to our relief, showed no signs of mental illness. Thank goodness for that. My father rushed home overnight. Duan Hang's actions, which endangered my family, could not be overlooked. Upon learning of the incident, Uncle Duan and Aunt Han chose to remain silent, merely stating that whatever needed to be done should be done. They could not intervene. This was because he had already caused 2 disturbances at the Duan residence, driven by jealousy of his siblings living there, smashing everything in sight. His parents, feeling hurt and frightened, ultimately abandoned him. Consequently, for breaking and entering, harming others, and damaging property, Duan Hang was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. The online comments finally vanished completely. I found my thoughts inexplicably drifting to the tattoo on his collarbone. Duan and Song, forever. A prophetic phrase. It truly meant he had severed ties forever. My family's vase was beyond repair. My mother picked up a shard, lamenting, "Your father bought this to symbolize peace." Yet it ended up shattered. A wave of anxiety washed over me. Given Duan Hang's insanity, who knew what else might happen? Though it pained me to think of the millions it would cost to imprison him, I could accept it. My father cleared his throat mysteriously. In truth, this was a pair of vases. I simply hadn't had the chance to display the other one. What? I asked. One is a genuine Ming piece, while the other is a Qing imitation. Initially, I intended to bid on just the original, but the auction house suggested adding 30,000 for the pair to keep them together. My father chuckled. My mother paused, then remarked, "The vases bring peace. How delightful." Indeed, splendid news. In the end, Aunt Han did not accompany my mother to the Arctic. Her once proud son was running amok on a mysterious path, even if he truly gave up as a mother. Her heart was irrevocably broken. My mother was at a loss for how to comfort her. The ties between the 2 families inevitably began to fray. When Song Yuan returned to school, it was during her final semester of senior year. She no longer possessed the same roundness. Instead, she had regained her slender form. Her hair remained as cascading as ever, and she wore a floor-length white dress, but the innocence in her gaze had vanished. Unable to graduate due to an unwritten thesis, she appeared indifferent, hastily gathering her personal belongings from the dorm before stepping into a luxurious car at the school entrance. I wondered whether she was there to collect her things or to flaunt something. Suddenly, I found myself reminiscing about her innocent days spent planting vegetables in my garden. Back then, she had been somewhat endearing. I couldn't fathom how she had transformed into her current self. Oh well, each to their own fate. I quickened my pace, knowing that if I didn't head to my father's company, he would call me incessantly. I had finally entered the board of directors. Haha. My father expressed his satisfaction, saying he could now accompany my mother to a small island for the summer. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and dove into the office to get busy. Over the past few years, the Jiang family had undergone a remarkable transformation, gradually emerging as a leader in the industry. I remained cautious and diligent, constantly learning and reflecting, never daring to pause even for a day. Observing my bank account swell, my skin glowed with health, radiating vitality. Wealth nourishes the soul, and I relish it. The end. Thank you for listening. I look forward to our next story together.